Hey guys, so before I begin this video, I wanted to thank you so much for your support of this channel. I know my voice isn't the best right now, and I figured I was going to release the video anyway because it's still not there, but it's a lot better shape than it was before, so please give this video a like, give it a comment, and do your best to share this video all around to help support the algorithm. The sooner you get this video shared, the more likely this video will appear in the recommended section where other people can discover the video and subscribe if they need to. So, guys, please leave a support, leave a like, leave a comment as I said, and just enjoy the video. Love you guys, and see you next time. I have seen many paranormal entities during my life. Here's my first quite shocking meeting with a ghost. I was 7 years old then. I was in my grandparents' house with my mother. The house is about 80 years old. I was relaxing downstairs when the phone suddenly rang from upstairs. My mother proceeded to go upstairs to answer the phone, and I followed her. After climbing about halfway up the old staircase, I felt that somebody or something was behind me. I quickly turned my head, and that's when I saw a middle-aged lady climbing the stairs, holding out her hands as if to grab me. She was wearing a bathrobe, and her hair looked mangled. I freaked out and ran upstairs as quickly as I was able to. She surely was a ghost, because she wasn't a family member or a friend. I'd never seen her before, and my mother didn't even notice her. She disappeared as fast as I'd seen her. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only ghost experience I had in that house. I was about 10 years old when the second meeting happened. It happened in the same old staircase in my grandparents' house. It was late night, and I was going upstairs to get some sleep. That's when I quickly discovered that my route was blocked. At the end of the corridor where you turn right to get to the staircase was a man, a very unusual man standing there. He was wearing a gas mask, so I wasn't able to see his face. He didn't speak, nor did he move at all. He just stood still, and I was too afraid to go past him. So I then got my grandmother and went back to the corridor with her. The gas man was nowhere to be found. Understandably, I was too afraid to sleep, so my grandmother stayed the night with me. I'm pretty sure that my grandparents' house is haunted, and my friend has witnessed that too, as the next experience tells. I was 11 years old, and my friend was 12 when this happened. We were playing in the basement of my grandparents' house. It's no surprise that the basement is also quite unsettling, just as much as the rest of the house is. We were in the big room just under the staircase that leads to the middle floor. We were having fun, until both of us felt a strange feeling that made it obvious that we were not alone in the basement. We felt that there were other beings present, entities that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. We're also sure it wasn't our grandparents, because both of my grandparents were upstairs. That feeling also told us to leave the basement. It felt like we were surrounded by invisible people, and that we really needed to leave the basement immediately. After a few minutes, in a panic, we fled back up fast. Even at this stage of my life, it is still frightening for me to walk that staircase or be in the basement. I often feel the same feeling in these places that I felt 10 years ago. My friend also feels the same energy as well. Luckily, I haven't seen any ghosts since then. Regardless, one thing is certain. There's a lot of paranormal activity going on in that house, and I'm the person the spirits need to target, for whatever reason or another. My story starts back in 1991, when I first hooked up with my then boyfriend, now husband. My boyfriend lived on the bottom floor of a house that his aunt owned. His aunt and her family lived on the second floor. His cousin was my best friend, and so I was always at the house. We had a small, close-knit group of friends, and were over our house one time playing Truth or Dare. I remember it as being late at night, and we were sitting on Holly's bed playing this game, when one of the girls asked her if the house was haunted. Holly said that it was, and that it was her maternal grandmother. She then went on to tell us certain things that would happen, and most situations would take place right next to the father's recliner chair. About 15 minutes after we finished playing the game, I had to use her bathroom. Though I was so totally afraid to go alone, I didn't want to seem chicken, so I went on my own to the bathroom. Just as I was passing by the recliner, I noticed I suddenly got cold. It was a warm summer night when this happened. Okay, I chalked it up to being my imagination, seeing as we had just been talking about it. Then, years later, I had this woman I was working for, and we got along really well. So, one day she had invited me to her house. Well, as we were at her house, we were talking about ghost stories and the like. She excitedly pulled out her digital camera and led me upstairs to their master bedroom. We stood just outside the bedroom doorway, and she told me to take the camera and just scan around the room, starting in one corner and going to the next. Just see if you see anything, she said. I took the camera, still not knowing if I was truly a believer, and scanned the room. Suddenly, I moved back to the corner I just scanned over. She said, "You see something, don't you?" I did. I saw a greenish male figure standing in the corner, looking out the window. I was scared to death. But even when I scanned the corner again, the figure was there. We returned to the first floor of the house when she started to tell me all about it. They had bought the house just about a year prior. The first week they lived in the house, their children, very young children, would awake in the middle of the night, screaming and crying. Finally, one night, my boss's husband got so furious, he yelled, "I don't care that you're here. I don't care if you just stay. Just leave my children alone." The children never woke up crying again. Then about a week later was when my boss had noticed the image through her camera. She'd been going through various parts of the home, taking photos to send to relatives that lived out of state. When she was scanning the master bedroom, looking for a good view of the room, and found the exact image I found. She yelled for her husband, who saw the same thing, but it could only be seen through the screen on her digital camera. After I saw it, I was a believer. There was no way I would have seen it if it weren't there. A couple of days after she saw the first image herself, she was cleaning in the basement when she found a hidden room. She went into the hidden room and found a box of papers. They started investigating the roots of the home. She found out that the old police chief of Rennister, the town she had lived in, had built the house a very long time ago. The only thing she could figure is that the greenish male figure is the police chief, looking out the window and watching over his town. They still live in that same home, and they still live with their chief, all of them living peacefully together. Since I was little, I've been sensitive to ghosts. Sometimes I had dreams that would later turn out to be true. Also could tell which song was on next on the radio, knew who the phone call was next, etc. My experiences tend to happen at times when I'm either feeling low, or just open towards the other side. My stories. As a little girl, I didn't like being in my room after it got dark, or darker when it was summertime. I remember feeling watched, and something wasn't right. A lot of times, I was so afraid of the door leading to the back of our house and the stables. I felt like something was looking at me and wanted to hurt me. This went on from when I was around 8 and stopped when I was 12. At times, they would show up only once. Once I was in bed and was close to falling asleep. Suddenly, I heard a voice calling my name. I woke up completely and looked into the corner of my room, and there was an old woman there. I couldn't see her clearly because she was kind of blurry, but she had a friendly feeling about her. She then disappeared, and I never saw her again. When I was 17, my dog died, and I was devastated. A few weeks later, I heard him coming up to my room from the kitchen and saw him enter my room. He then jumped up on my bed, walked around 3 times before sighing, and got down. I could feel him on my bed and against my leg. When I tried to touch him, he disappeared. My parents' farm, where most of the events happened, is old. It burnt down once there, and there seems to be quite a lot of ghostly activity. In the barn, my parents got their car. Since I was little, I was afraid being alone there. I felt something was wrong, and that something was hanging in the dark. I always felt uneasy there until a few years ago, when my mom told me that someone had offed themselves there. My worst experience I've had was when I was around 15 to 17 years old. My room was connected to the kitchen by a little hallway. From the kitchen, you can go directly to the 2 living rooms. The last one I've never felt easy in was always feeling unnaturally cold and just weird. One night, I woke up and my room was ice cold. I heard someone open the door from the hall to the kitchen. It was a man, and he was going directly to the last of the living room. Somehow I was there when he went there. I saw him take his rifle and then off himself. It was feelings more than actually seeing him do it. I then was back in my body, but heard him fall down to the floor, moved a bit, and moaned before he died. The second that happened, the coldness disappeared, and I could breathe again. I told my friend at the time about it, but I was too afraid to ask my parents. One day, I sort of jokingly asked if anyone had offed themselves in that room. My dad turned around and looked at me with a strange look. Yes, your godmother's father offed himself there. They hadn't told me because my godmother didn't like me to know. I found his grave, and it happened the exact day he had offed himself. I've had nice experiences though. A friend of my parents and their friend had offed herself. My friend was really devastated about it and couldn't get over it. One day we were in the kitchen when I saw a sort of fog that turned into a ghostly hand. It may have looked ridiculous, but I'm telling you, I know with my own eyes what I saw. It was right on my friend's shoulder, almost as if to soothe her. After it disappeared, I immediately alerted my friend, and she said that her shoulder felt really cold. My friend then told me that she felt a lot of peace. To the both of us, it really meant a lot. The latest year, the happenings happened without any real pattern. Last year, when I was at my parents' and sleeping in my old rooms, I didn't get any sleep for the last 4 days I was there. There was a presence in the room, and it was not a pleasant one. It just radiated hatred, and it was pointed at me for some reason. The next time I got home, it wasn't in there, Then I had to sleep in my mom's bedroom. I was woken up by someone slamming their hands into the bed very hard. I looked at the end of the bed, and I saw a shadow standing there, then disappeared. Since then, I haven't felt it. For some reason, I knew it was male, but I didn't know why it felt so badly about me. When I'm home at my parents' now, there's a young girl there, something I can't feel what it is, and a man. None of these are evil, but just looking out for me. I've seen the girl from the corner of my eyes, and seen her reflected in the mirror. I think they are protecting me, and just looking out for me. At times I can enter a house and know that there's more than just what the eyes see. I felt the presence of family or just passerbyers. I do believe that at my parents' house, there's some kind of field of energy where these spirits can enter. Some stay, but others don't. I got one in my room where I live now. Just a little prankster, really. Turns on my computer, or opens all the cupboards. I did have an old man, though, who loved to watch me shower. I told him that it was rude, and I didn't like it. Since then, he hadn't been there. At the same time, there's a girl running every night on the upper floor. My brother is sensitive too, but apparently never experienced the same as I have at my parents' house. Seems I'm the only one they get attracted to. Also felt being pushed, but that happened at my parents' house as well. I don't mind having this ability, but I know I have to learn to control it. It can get to be too much at times. I've been doing some research about black spirits and ghosts. I had an experience in January 2000 when I lived in an old house in Portland, Maine. It was late in the evening, about 10 p.m. or so, when I felt something peering at me from a closet in my basement apartment. I thought nothing of it, but when I looked again, a materialistic, three-dimensional human-shaped figure with no facial features darted from the closet and stood behind me. It was suspended above the floor, about a foot or so. Before I knew it, two more had come out of nowhere. It happened so fast, and they moved so quickly, that I didn't even know what to make of this incident. I was a skeptic at the time, and had been all my life on ghosts, supernatural, etc. I was 36 years old at the time. There were multiple instances where I seriously felt like the house was shaking. Doors being slammed, open and shut, cabinets being open and shut as well, pots being moved around. It was seriously like a horror movie. I remember one time this happened, and it scared me half to death, almost literally. I ended up having a mild heart attack, and I ended up waking up in a hospital. All I remember was feeling the energy of what was happening that day, and then I lost consciousness. And that's when I was in the hospital bed. The doctor told me that the neighbor noticed something was wrong in that house, and noticed me lying on the floor, so she went and called the cops for me, and the ambulance arrived. They even told me that my heart stopped for a moment, and they had to use a defibrillator to bring me back to life. I was clinically dead, even though they only classified it as a mild heart attack. Anyway, I know this all sounds absurd, but I'm telling you, it definitely did happen. I'm just glad that I don't have to deal with it anymore. I don't live in the same place I do now. It was not worth it in the end. And after that heart attack, I don't think I'll ever be worth it. Scary stuff, poltergeists, and black beings on the walls. Definitely not something I want to deal with. One night, me and two guy friends were driving into Howard City, Michigan. We were driving down the road, and on each side, there's cornfields, and we saw two girls, one standing at the opposite side of the road, and another walking directly into our path. The girl walking into our path was wearing a gray sweatshirt, blue jeans, had blonde hair, and white eyes. The girl that was standing on the other side of the road was wearing a red sweatshirt, had brown hair, and wore blue jeans. As we were driving towards them, I tried as hard as I could to tell my friend's boyfriend to look out for her, but I couldn't. I couldn't say a word. I tried, and nothing came out because I was so terrified of what I thought I saw. The girls had completely vanished. After we got to the stop sign, I said to my friend's boyfriend, "Did you see that?" He said yes, and the other guy that was in the truck with us asked me what, so I told him, and he said, "We have to go back and check it out." So we turned back around and went back down the road and found no signs of them.